Latifah was talking about being an insider and being an outsider. When I was moving recently, I came across a box of, where you have those old things that you keep around for some reason. And I was lifting up the pages and I came across a letter from probably the very first general manager that I worked for at WOR-TV in 1970, which is when I started in this business, the real old days. Anyway, the letter said, "Dear Carol, it has come to our attention that you are agitating the women who work for us." Please feel free to leave at any time. I wound up staying there, for the rest of that time. Went on to ABC and then to NBC, where I stayed for 23 years. So 30 years altogether. But I must confess, even when I was an insider, I was an outsider, because I got those same kinds of letters from my subsequent news directors and general managers. So finally, I have a perfect job. It's wonderful to leave that place where you're supposed to be objective and play along and be a part of what increasingly became the corporate life that we were working in. When I started in news, I went into it to be a part of a quest to make the world a fairer, more obvious, clearer place, and became a corporate player where there were clearly things that we could not say, and increasingly so now that you find women who work in corporate, who work for the media, they're actually working for corporations, as you well know. They have to play by the rules. So those are the insiders, and we are the outsiders. I guess it's Ellie Smeal who says, once an outsider, always the outsider. It doesn't even matter who gets into who becomes the president. We're still outsiders, and we still have to agitate. So as an outsider, I'm thrilled to say that Kim Gandy may be your president, but she is our leader in media justice, in working in the field. We were pleased to work with now the Feminist Majority and the National Women's Political Caucus and our partner Media Matters to what I call pitch a fit, and Kim is really good at that. Some people call it advocacy. We call it pitching a fit, which one must do. And that was when Chris Matthews crossed the line, I don't know, one of 100 times. But at any rate, in this early phase when he offered up that the only reason that Hillary Clinton could run was because her husband had messed around. Well, working together as a group, as a coalition, we were able to get not only an apology on air from Chris Matthews, but this was the sweet thing, is a call from the president of NBC News apologizing to, explaining that yes, he knew this was wrong and that they were going to make a change. And how many more times do we have to go back there, though? But at any rate, having worked in news for 30 years, that was probably the sweetest moment of all, when a news director, when a president of NBC News realized that someone on the air had gone across the line and actually took heed to the women who were complaining. And so what I would say, we've got some fabulous people who are going to be speaking here today, women, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about that. My general prescription for the problem that we have now is that we cannot do it alone. All of the organizations who have media as a piece of their work have to come together. That was our mandate from the beginning when the Women's Media Center was founded by, I don't know whether you know these names, of Gloria Steinem, Jane Fonda, and Robin Morgan. Not radical women at all. But the reason that they created this was because of the invisibility of women. Not only inside the media, but outside the women's story. So what we work for is to have both the participation and the portrayal of women be fair. We're 51% of the population, as we call ourselves, this invisible majority, having to still, as Kim was talking earlier today, writing a chapter in a book about women's issues. The people still don't get it. That we are the majority. And in the media, some people have always said to us when we use this figure that we're 51% of the population, we only have 3% of the clout positions in media. Those are the positions that determine what you see and hear in every sphere. When you go to the movies, when you turn on the news, when you are reading a publication online or in print, 97% of the decision makers in all of those spheres are men. And people have said to us, what difference does it make? And what we say is that if you understand then that 97% of everything you know about who you are, what your country is about, and your place in the world comes from the male perspective, which is incomplete at the very least of ways that you could address that figure. So that it's absolutely important that we put our work together, that we combine our efforts, that we, another effort that we belong to is the Coalition for Dignity and Diversity in the Media, 250 organizations, 15 million women, black and white, Latina, in every definition that you could come across. This is exactly the way that it has to happen. And in those, for a while there after IMUS, where we were able to make a lot of noise because of that, there were every Tuesday morning there was a meeting where we got on the phone and said, what's the issue? How do we move forward together? And I think that as you go back out into your world and to look where you are in your communities and what other organizations there are, these days of competition, of wanting to get one up on the other organization really have to be suppressed some, because we will not make progress unless we work together. So the figure, 3% of cloud positions, 25% of syndicated op-ed writers, and Marie Coco is going to talk about that. At a place like the Washington Post, where they have 2 women op-ed writers, and 17 to 18 men, which is just, the New York Times, you have 2 to 10 or 12. I mean, these figures are just outrageous. And people have said to us again, what difference does it make? Well, the opinion pages set policy. They determine how we live. It also showcases the minds that are respected to analyze what we're all about. And if you have 2 women and 18 men, you understand that the woman's viewpoint, not even the viewpoint, the woman's mind is not being respected, is not being valued as capable of analyzing our situation in the world and guiding us forward. So that's why the opinion pages are important. And I make the difference between syndicated, hired writers of opinion pages, of opinions, versus the people who will write 1 or 2 op-eds a year. Because op-eds are the thing, the rage, and all of us in the work that we do might be able to get in one publication, 1 or 2 printed at a publication. You can't expect any more than that in a year, because they say that they're opening it up to as many voices as possible, which of course is as many male voices as possible. So while we're all talking about writing op-eds, and we absolutely have to do that, and to increase the numbers of our submissions, we also have to look at the numbers of who is hired, who is actually paid to write op-eds. And that's why this 25% overall, and the fact that major papers can only have 1 or 2 or 3 women is just ridiculous. And that's a hiring issue. I know that in a lot of this, the pushback that we're getting as we agitate ourselves for greater representation is that it's our fault because we have a, quote, ambition gap. And we're not writing, and we're not willing to work the hours to become the anchors or to do the whatever, that this is somehow our fault. Well, I say we do need to step up to the plate to make it clear that we are available and that we will be there, but we also have to make that distinction between who is available to write for free and who is necessary to be hired to equalize the industry. In radio, for instance, in radio, one of the things that makes me most angry is that we have allowed figures like only 10 or 15% of the managers in radio are women. Only 10 or 15% of the people on the air are women. I mean, this is crazy. And we talked a little bit earlier about the ownership, which is 5%, and 3% for people of color. these are publicly owned airwaves. What are you talking about? How can you operate a system, that belongs to the people of the United States and exclude women virtually wholeheartedly, because 10%, I'm here to tell you, is not a representation of 51% of the population.